everybody, and welcome to Talk, Teach and Learn, an Edtech podcast brought to you by Firefly Learning. Firefly Learning is the trusted platform for whole school engagement, helping schools deliver a unified school experience. Firefly offers schools a way to provide a better experience for everyone through a simpler, more joined-up process for the whole school community to work together. If you're a teacher or a school leader looking to learn more about how you can consistently use technology to improve your teaching and learning strategies and classroom management, you've come to the right place. Welcome to podcast episode 6. I'm your host, Rob Eastman from Firefly Learning. I've been with Firefly for 8 years, but I was previously a Director of Studies at a school in the UK, and I've got a background teaching science and leading the use of IT in schools. And I'm delighted to say that today I'll be joined by Luke Woolley. Luke is the Director of Studies at Clifton Hall School in Edinburgh. Clifton Hall is Edinburgh's smallest independent school with a pupil roll of 460. Well, that's still a decent size. The school prides itself on being non-selective, and teachers at the school are committed to delivering an excellent educational experience to pupils of all abilities. Luke is responsible for the day-to-day running and good order of Clifton Hall, including parent communication. This involves using tools such as Firefly and School Post on a nearly daily basis. He has a wealth of experience both within and out of the independent sector, having held roles such as Head of RMPS at Stuart's Melville College and PT Guidance Faculty Leader of Social Subjects at Knox Academy. Over the years, Luke has led a variety of international expeditions, try and get that with your teeth in, expeditions to destinations as far-flung as Honduras and Borneo. And I'm immediately jealous of you because my school trips were to something just down the road generally. Never mind get out to Honduras and Borneo. That must have been absolutely amazing. But welcome aboard, Luke. It's great to have you with us today. And,
it's good to be here.
Obviously, what we want to chat today a little bit about is just sort of communication, managing parental communication. It is a challenge for schools. It's always been a challenge for schools. I mean, that's nothing new, but it's something that I think particularly sort of after the pandemic and all of the lockdowns, it's something that schools are feeling particularly acutely because the expectations of parents, I suppose, have gone up quite a lot. So what are your, there at Clifton Hall, what are your top 3 methods of communication with parents?
Okay, so I think for me, probably in a third place, it would be that kind of mass messaging or the kind of the use of School Post, essentially. And I think we use that because it is so effective at being able to intuitively work out the parents that you need to get the message to and bundle it up so that they're not scrolling through countless emails, only of which kind of 1 or 2 are relevant to them. And for me, I think what makes School Post great is just because it's so easy. The office team love it. And if they love something, it means that it's kind of easy to use. And it means that the messaging that we're getting out there is accurate as well. So I think my only concern with that use and the use of School Post is the danger of still bombarding parents with lots of information. So to try and avoid that, we ask staff to plan ahead, get messages to us with at least kind of 2 weeks advance notice, which means that we can proof them and then batch them up so that parents kind of get them at the kind of set time each evening. We are considering actually going that step further to try and batch things up so they just go out on the Friday as well, so that parents can do that planning over the weekend for the week ahead. So that's our kind of third choice, I would say. Second place for me and from a teaching perspective is still the use of formal school reports and parents' evenings as well. I know there's this ongoing debate about the purpose and the need for those reports, but I still feel that in the setting that we're in, there's a parental expectation. They want teachers to report on academic progress at those key points during the year. So we always plan for a report or a parents' evening to take place or be issued each term of the school year. We've got 3 terms. So we have that kind of formal contact once a term. And I think what's really important with reporting and with parents' evening is that you time them in the calendar appropriately. So what I mean by that is for S1, I think having a report in September, October, early doors when they're settling in, arriving at the school is really important. And then actually in term 2, once teachers have developed that relationship with the pupil, they're then in a better position to kind of meet with parents face to face and report on their progress. However, alternatively with other year groups, for example, the exam years, SQA classes, I think parents' evening right at the start of the academic year is really important to set the tone, share deadlines, etc., and then actually have the report before a prelim with areas of revision, so maybe December, and then have a follow-up report in term 2 once the pupils have completed the prelim ahead of the final exam. So I think it's just about being a bit savvy with where those reports and parents' evenings come in the year. Each year group has different needs at different stages. So, and one of the great things that we started to do with our reports now this year, and again, it's actually thanks to Firefly, is we've stopped issuing them in kind of hard copy format, posting them out to parents. Now all of the kind of the reports which staff write in ISAMs are then stored in the parent profile on Firefly, which actually is fantastic. Because it means that if you have a child who joins the school in primary 1 or junior 1, it means that when they leave at the end of senior 6 or S6, that the parent and the child can look back at all their kind of progress reports and chart their kind of learning journey, which I just think is a lovely touch, actually. And within that report, you've got the photo of the pupil, and you can see them change, throughout their time at the school. So I'm quite excited to see how that pans out. And then number 1 is probably for us, it's our daily bulletin. That is, it's literally our kind of weekly newspaper, so to speak, and it's issued to all parents across the school every Friday evening at 5:00. We actually now, we've stopped sending a school post really with the bulletin contained. We just add it to a page on Firefly, and parents have that page bookmarked, so it's easy for them. It cuts down that kind of additional unnecessary bit of communication. So this document, again, I think it's useful because of its easy to kind of navigate setup. On the front page, we have a kind of inspirational, educational quote, and then immediately under that, we will have the kind of dates in the calendar for the week ahead. So for those parents who are just incredibly busy and are going to scan the document, we're fairly confident that they're looking at that week ahead and writing in dates where they're necessary. And then we break down the stories within the bulletin into the junior school and into the senior school. And then at the back of that document, we always have a kind of coming up section, which will give all of the dates and the key information for the next month. Because actually every parent's different. From my point of view, I just want to be able to drop off or pick up at the end of the day and know what to pack. But there are other parents who like to plan ahead, and that's fine. So you've got to really try and cover all bases, give the immediate information and then the information about events which are around the corner. We also made the decision to have a separate sports bulletin. It was included in the weekly bulletin, but there are so many pupils who might not partake in sports. That information, again, isn't relevant. So that sports bulletin is targeted at a specific audience. So yeah, for me, it's probably email, school post, reports and parents' evenings, and then the weekly bulletin.
So, I mean, from what you described there, that's a huge amount to juggle. There is a huge amount going on. I mean, do you centralize kind of the control of your communications? Because obviously you're balancing, I suppose, the expectations of parents. Because as you said, there are a lot of them would be deeply uncomfortable if there was a move away from, let's say, the traditional end of term reports, and parents' evenings as well. They're a really important role to play. So balancing what parents want, and then you're tailoring what you deliver and when you deliver it to the needs of a particular year group, where they are in their educational journey. I mean, do you have the process is kind of centrally controlled and centrally managed by a sort of a guru of all things communication, or is it more of a free for all?
It's not. It can be a free for all. To limit it being a free for all, so there's a bit of order. We do have our kind of calendar meeting the week, the kind of session before, that would take place at the end of term 2 or the start of term 3 of an academic year. And that involves the faculty leaders who basically collate all the responses from teachers within their faculties for trips, events. They then present that to senior management team, and we create this kind of calendar, or we kind of troubleshoot and think about conflicts, clashes, issues. And that means that by the time we get to the end of term 3 of an academic year, we have a calendar ready to go, which means that the nuts and bolts are there. It's then just up to those teachers who have kind of championed an initiative or a trip to get the kind of text of a letter out, which is then given to the office. So I think it is hard. There's a lot to juggle, and I think especially meeting the needs of parents in the junior school compared with the needs of parents in the senior school, it's much more hands off, I suppose. The older your child gets, the level of communication is much higher, probably kind of lower down the school. So we try our best, and from what we hear from parents, we just did a kind of parent survey at the end of term 1. And, 92% of respondents said that they felt happy with the level of communication between school and home. So, it might be messy at points. I was going to kind of touch on this later, but I can mention it now. I think during the pandemic, it was really frustrating for both the school and for parents, because there were so many changes to events. This exam's going on this day. Oh, no, it's not. We've got a nativity happening. No, we don't. This year groups in, no, they're being sent home. And I think that created not a level of mistrust, but certainly anxiety on the part of parents, not knowing what to expect. Now we're entering that steady state again, where we're kind of back into the rhythm of normal school life, which is great. Long may that last.
Yeah, I think 92% of happy parents is a place that a lot of schools would be very happy to be, if I'm honest with you. But you're obviously you're talking about an element there of personalized messaging, relevant to the individual, and then a degree of mass messaging as well. And so, how easy do you find it to balance that delivery? Where is the right sort of tipping point between, right, this is personalized, this is something which is going to go out en masse, and just managing that process?
Yeah, I mean, the way I always view it is, I think for mass messaging, if it's something positive or just something which is necessary, get it out that way. If there's something which, might be, for example, an unpopular decision, or something which is highlighting an area of concern, I always think, with that kind of situation, it's much better to pick up the phone and have that kind of conversation, or invite a parent or a group of parents in, because I think, you can't often read tone in emails. It can lead to back and forth, which you want to avoid as much as possible. So, yeah, that's that kind of mantra seems to work for me. Positive. Use the mass messaging, get the information or the news, the good news stories out there that way. For stuff where there's a bit of kind of nuance or kind of intervention needed on the part of all stakeholders, I think, it's much better to go for that individual and personalized approach. And of course, every parent is different. I know the parents well at school, and I know the parents that appreciate a phone call. I know the parents that would much rather have an online Microsoft Teams chat, and actually the parents who, come what may, even if it was the issuing of a detention and you're sharing that news, they don't mind getting it in email. So you've got to really kind of work with parents and build that relationship to know what their wants. And we're in that good position, I think, at the school, because we are that bit smaller. We're able to do that fairly effectively.
And that's a nice, easy dividing line, actually. The positive, good news, people need to act on this, for example, it's a general thing, then we can send that out en masse. But actually something which is, potentially a bit more sensitive, or actually, like you said, you did the nuance, the tone, which you get in a conversation, you never get in an email, is something which can sometimes just sweeten the pill, maybe, of some less than good news, shall we say? But at least it's a very straightforward dividing line, and therefore an easy one to follow.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And another thing actually is sometimes it's better. We always have, face to face is, I think for all of us, we much prefer face to face in terms of the communication. We always have a member of the SMT out on the front steps, just to when parents are dropping off, there's always someone there that if there is that particular sensitive issue, a parent knows that they can come and share something with a trusted member of the senior management team, and that's passed on to the relevant people. So, it's just all these kind of little tricks or kind of approaches which make life easier. Because it's hard, isn't it? You want to communicate, but it's just finding the right, there's too much and there's too little from time to time, and it's just striking that right balance.
Yeah, and it's good to see, like you said, having somebody on the front step at pickup time. It's all about relationship building. It's all about faces and being able to put a face to it, which is really important. So one of the obviously things that parents want to know, what is my child doing and what do I need to do? But also, I suppose there's that element of how is my child doing? So how do you go about sharing sort of learning updates, achievements? That's the academic side, if you like, with parents.
Again, the academics are usually contained within the body of a report. So within the kind of progress reports which we issue out for exam years classes, there's always a kind of section which will say, working below, working towards, on track, exceeding the level which that child's being entered for. And then once we're in a position to actually comment or predict grades, which is another kind of hot potato, we can then include kind of working grades or bands which are shared with parents. So the parent can very quickly look at a report and see if their child is improving, or is plateaued. So that's sent out there. We do have, of course, other ways of kind of highlighting those achievements. I always take it upon myself after a formal kind of diet of prelims or kind of mock exams to send letters out to all the pupils who've, it's not about the A for me, it's about the effort and the engagements. Those who have put in their full effort and their teachers have recognised that, I kind of send that personal letter home. And I think sometimes the old-fashioned approach works pretty well, and parents pick up on that because their child likes it when they get something tangible, physical. They open up, and it's that good news story. Oh, I've done well at school, and of course the easiest way probably to highlight school successes, pupil achievements, or team achievements now is to use social media effectively. I think there's that ongoing kind of debate about the dangers with the use of social media, and I get that, but I think we as a school need to show and lead by example, and share those good news stories, and share successes using platforms like Facebook, which your kind of parent body are most likely going to use, and we also use Instagram, which we know that the younger parents and the pupil body kind of engage with on a daily basis. So you've got to think about your audience, and you've got to think about the importance of that personal touch versus the celebration of kind of group success.
I think what the other interesting thing about social media, and it's good to see you using it in that way, is whatever we do, the kids are going to use social media, and at least this way the school is able to model sensible, responsible, positive use of social media, because they have enough examples of poor use out there all the time. And so I think educating them in this is what good social media use looks like. And, as you said, it's something which for a lot of them, the kids and for parents as well, it's kind of their lifeblood to a certain extent of staying in contact with each other. And keeping up to date with what's going on. So I think that's a really positive way of going about it, except that it's there, but actually we can take advantage of that and show good use at the same time, I think is really good.
Yeah, definitely.
So we always like to leave our listeners with some advice, some steps that they can take moving forward. So just finish up, what would be your top tips, if you like, for an effective communication strategy that schools might want to think about?
Okay. Number one for me is accuracy. I think the best way to build up a level of trust between parents and the school is to make sure that what you're publishing and the information which you're sharing is as accurate as possible. And, again, going back to the pandemic, I feel that trust was eroded sometimes just because our hand was forced. We had to cancel things. There were changes. And there's nothing worse than a parent when you've dressed your child for school and you're driving up the front drive to the school building, and then you get a ping to say school shut, for example. So I think accuracy is really important, and that's why our Friday afternoon as a senior management team, 4 members of SMT will always get that school bulletin, and we proofread it for kind of grammar, spelling. And we then check it off against the school calendar to see that the dates in that document align. So accuracy is really, really, really important. I think accessibility is important as well. So, our school, we're in a position where I think we're the fastest growing independent school in Scotland. We're nearly full. We only have a few spaces left in the nursery. But it's when you have a large number of new parents joining the school at the start of an academic year, you've got all these great tools such as Firefly or school posts, but parents need to know how to actually get onto those systems. And I sometimes think that that's forgotten. And that's certainly something to really look at. I think a quick guide for parents, which tells them at the start of the year, this is how we communicate with you. This is when we communicate with you. These are the people to get in contact. I think that can save countless phone calls and emails into the school office. So accessibility is important. And then just the appropriateness of the communication. We've touched on it in terms of bad news stories or kind of individual kind of pupil events. But actually also you have to think about the content within your kind of mass briefings, etc., or bulletin messages as well. So, you don't want an essay going into the weekly bulletin because, a long article, which is 4 or 5 pages long, is going to disengage the majority of the readers. So you want to make it sure that what's included is short, snappy paragraphs, and actually the information's relevant. It's not the same thing which is repeated over and over again. So just appropriateness. So very simple. For me, accuracy, and then accessibility, and just make sure it's appropriate for the audience as well. And I think if you do that, you can't go far wrong.
No, I think all of that sounds very, very sensible. I particularly the keeping it short. I think if teachers have one failing, which is almost global, I think it's our tendency to be verbose, and I'm as guilty of that as the next person. But I think keeping to the point, giving the parents the information, just the information they need, and not going over the top with it, I think is a really key thing in actually, just like you said, no one's going to read 3 pages, and then they'll stop reading all the other ones that come along after that. Keeping to the point, keeping it short. And keeping it relevant, as you said, I think are really important. Well, that wraps us up really for today's session. Thank you so much for your time, Luke. I know as teachers, we're all very busy. I'm sure that you have a plethora of things that you should be getting on with right now. So maybe coming and sitting in a podcast is a welcome break, but it just all stacks up. So I thank you for your time, and thank you everybody who's listening. I hope you found that useful. I know I certainly did. It's always a pleasure talking to people at the chalk face, or whether it's still the chalk face or whether it's now the interactive whiteboard face. I'm not sure what the 21st century version would be on that, but it's great to talk to you, Luke. And for everyone else, looking forward to our next podcast, which will be out sometime soon. So keep an eye out for that. But in the meantime, have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. And I know it's cold out there, but it won't be cold for much longer. Fingers crossed. Take care and cheerio.